So I suspect I know the answer to this, but I assume that when Brexit happened, you must have been cheering through the roof, right? Because that's probably the first underpinning of some escape here.
No,
Really?
no. You see, I'm a contradictory kind of guy.
Oh man, now you're
I
gonna
actually,
you're gonna quote somebody
I
else.
actually, I actually campaigned in Britain against Brexit, and it dumbfounded a number of people. People said to me, the European Union asphyxiated you. They treated you with contempt. They drove you out of government, and you are asking us to stay in the European Union. And my answer was yes. And the reason was twofold. Firstly, you can't get out. By voting to get out, you're not going to get out. Look at what's happening now. They're going to be embroiled in a 10-year period of negotiations. Instead of becoming extroverted and looking to the rest of the world for Britain to become, again, Britannia that rules the waves and is a trading nation, they're going to spend the next 10 years completely concentrated, focused on negotiations that get them nowhere with Brussels.
So basically just the process of extricating themselves out.
Yes. Yes, and I use the last line in Hotel California. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never.
Yeah.
So, given that that is the case, and you don't want to leave and completely sever your links with the European Union because you're part of Europe. 60% of your trade is with Europe. Okay, so you can't just say, okay, I'll forget about it. You're going to have an economic implosion in Britain that's going to affect the most underprivileged people. And they're the ones who want Brexit. So I was, just be fearful of that which you pray for, I was saying to them. And my line was, the European Union is a terrible thing. There's no doubt about that. Nobody knows this better than me. But what I think we should do, we should forget leaving. We should bind forces together within this awful union and fight against the powers that be within Europe. But pull our forces together within Europe. So, for instance, if let's say that in the United States you're against the federal government, the solution is not to up stamps and declare that California is going to be an independent republic. What you should be doing as patriots, as sensible Americans, is bind together across the United States to change the federal government. And even its institutions, change the constitution if you want. But the solution is not fragmentation. Fragmentation, you see, let me put it this way, and I'll conclude with this. If we had not created this European Union, I would fight tooth and nail against its creation. Tooth and nail against its creation, like I fought against the creation of the Eurozone. But it's one thing to say we should not have created it. It's quite another to say, let's now break it up.
Right.
Because if you break it up, you don't go back to where you would have been if you didn't create it. You fall off a cliff. Because imagine if the European Union now breaks up. What's going to happen? There's going to be a fault line across the River Rhine, splitting France and Germany again. There's going to be a stagflationary Latin Europe, Italy, France, with inflation and high unemployment, because those currencies are going to devalue massively. So there's going to be inflation and will be unemployment. So stagflation, not very nice. Whereas in Germany, you're going to have deflation. You're going to have millions of workers who are now working poor becoming unemployed poor. This is a frightening prospect.
Yeah.
This is how wars begin. So this is why I was against Brexit, because you need to see ahead. And the solution for me must be pan-European now.
I mean, this is fascinating. So I guess I would describe you at this point as a libertarian. Did you say Marxist libertarian or libertarian Marxist?
Either way.
Either way, but you got to add realist into that, right? But I guess that frames it, because basically what you're saying is there's a sucky situation here, but that doesn't mean that leaving is the answer.
Yeah. Sure.
So we're dealing with a lot of macro stuff here. On the micro level, for the average person that's in Athens right now, for somebody that lives a block away from you, let's say they had a little bit of money and they wanted to open a store. Could they literally not get a dime from a bank right now?
Yes.
So
the banks are defined. David, let me give you just one number.
Yeah.
So that you understand why I'm saying this. 55%. This is the percentage of all loans given out by Greek banks, which are non-performing as we speak. Non-performing. Can you imagine a bank whose loan book is in the red by 55% of the loan book being non-performing.
Yeah, that's unheard of.
They're insolvent. So they know they're insolvent. So any dime they get, they hold on to, because they know that the central bank, the authorities, can declare them insolvent at any moment. The fact that they are not doing it is because the authorities fear that if they do it, then there will be a complete collapse of all the banking system throughout Europe, because they're all in deep trouble. Think of Italian banks, Spanish banks, German banks, Deutsche Bank, for God's sake, French banks. Mm-hmm. But nevertheless, if you're a banker in Greece, let's say you own Alpha Bank or Eurobank, these are Greek banks, and some money comes in, you hold on to it. You do not lend it out because you want to shore up your capitalization. And the result is that I have a friend who has a factory, small factory. It used to be bigger, now it's smaller, up in central Greece. And this is a very good case in point, because he has a very good track record. His company has been profitable even in the middle of the crisis over the last decade. And the reason is because 95% of what he produces, he exports. It's plastics mainly. So 95% of output goes outside of Greece. So that's why he's been shielded from the crisis. So recently I was talking to him, and he said to me that if he manages to survive until July 2017, it will be a great feat. I said, why? You're profitable. He said, yeah, I'm profitable. But you know what? My suppliers, he gets his raw materials from abroad, no longer accept Greek bank letters of credit. So he has to pay for his supplies from his own pocket. And that is crippling for any business. Right?
Yeah.
So he has unfulfilled orders because he's constrained in terms of his inputs, because the banking system does not work. And then, so I pushed him a bit further and said, so why don't you go to a German bank? Ask them for money. I mean, they must be dying to give you money because you have a good business, and they don't have enough customers. So it's a match made in heaven. Mm-hmm. He said, oh, you think I haven't done it? I went to Frankfurt. You know what they said to me? Bring your headquarters to Germany and we'll give you loans.
Wow.
Now, that's not how to run a monetary union, right?
Right. That's how you basically rape and pillage everybody and centralize everything. So do you think that there's a sort of net gain here of what this has done for the Greek people, just in terms of national pride? Now, I know national pride can always go awry, but I was even watching the Anthony Bourdain show on CNN a couple of days ago, and they did a whole thing about Greece. It was mostly about food, but they talked a little bit about the economic situation. And I heard a bunch of people say that there's a sort of newfound sense of pride because they do feel like their backs are against the wall now. Do you sense that?
Well, we when we were in government, and I'm not saying this because I was part of it, but I think this is quite objective. That no that we said to Germany, to the creditors for a few months, that resistance caused a sense of pride to skyrocket. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, it was dashed the night of the referendum that we discussed. But to this day, you're right. Greeks have a capacity to do two things: to extract pride out of survival, to say that, look, we're still alive. You have not managed to force us to migrate yet. Right. And also to extract a lot of joy out of misery. We are very good at that in Greece.
Yeah.
Because we've had centuries of poverty, centuries of occupation. Remember, Greece was under the Ottomans, the Turks, for a good 500 years, mm-hmm. and we survived. So we're very hard to kill.
That's the key to the whole thing here.
Yeah, very hard to kill, and especially to kill our spirits. You go out now, it's a Tuesday night. If you go out now to the center of Athens, you'll find people dancing and singing, and of course the songs can be melancholy, they can be very bitter, they can be very sardonic and ironical. But there's a revival of the arts, which is a good thing. I think the 1930s was very good for music and the arts and cinema and theater, because generally the human spirit and the human condition has a remarkable capacity to respond to hardship with creativity. So we see that. So there are silver linings.
I'm curious, do you know of a Greek mythology that's sort of the right metaphor for all this? I loved Greek mythology when I was a kid, and this morning I kept trying to come up with something that would feel like the right answer. Is there a story in Greek mythology that gets us close to what's going on right now?
Plenty,
Yeah?
plenty. Well,
Give me
firstly,
one.
well, the bailouts are Sisyphus. Sisyphus is pushing the rock up the hill, and he's condemned. This is his punishment. The moment he reaches the top, the rock rolls back, and he has to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And the optimal strategy for Sisyphus is to stop pushing it up the hill. This was my view about the bailouts.
Right.
The optimal strategy was to stop doing it.
Yeah. All
Like,
right, that one's pretty on point. Now I want a couple more.
Okay. A second one is the Ulysses strategy, which I really enjoy. It was what I was trying to convince my fellow ministers in cabinet that we should be doing. You recall the story when Ulysses, Odysseus, is his Greek name, is on his ship, and he's trying to sail back to Ithaca, to his hometown, to his home island. And this is a story of multiple challenges that he faces on his way back home. One of the challenges is that there's this island inhabited by famous singing women called the Sirens.
Yep.
The Sirens were infamous for their wonderful singing, their melodic singing, the most beautiful voices in the world, but also for their cruelty, because they used their singing to lure sailors to the island, and then they slaughtered them and ate them. So he wanted to combine, to have his pie and eat it. He wanted to listen to their song and not die. So his strategy was, he asked his crew members to plug their ears with wax so they wouldn't hear the song, to tie him up on the mast and sail past the island so he would hear the song, but not to listen to him at all, not pay any attention to him, to his gesticulations and, his protestations, let me out, until they were well clear of the island. So I was saying to my colleagues, this is forget the siren song. If you want to listen to it, we have to tie ourselves up on an imaginary mast, which must be a commitment not to take another penny from Europe until our debt is restructured and to have a sensible fiscal policy. Because if we take any money, this is like succumbing to the siren song. So that's another one. And finally,
yes,
I'll give you three.
Yeah.
Right? Three is a good number. The story of Antigone. Antigone was a young princess in Thebes. She was a tragic figure. Her two brothers were they were involved in a civil war. They were fighting amongst each other as to who would become king. And the result is that they both died on the battlefield. The sitting king of Thebes, who was Antigone's uncle, decided that one of them was in the wrong, one of the two brothers, the one who had attacked the city in order to claim the throne from his brother. And therefore, whereas his brother would be given full military honors and a wonderful funeral, the body would be left to rot and to be eaten by jackals on the battlefield. And Antigone, who believed deeply and religiously that it doesn't matter at all what you think about a man's deeds, everyone deserves a proper funeral, she defied her uncle, the king, and buried her brother, the result being that she was executed. And there is a wonderful speech in Antigone, the tragedy, in which she explains beautifully that when right contradicts power, right should prevail. So, there, three stories.
All right. I love, that's a perfect way to end this. I hope that next time we can do this in person, because as I told you before, I'm overdue to visit Greece. Where's the best spanakopita in Athens?
Oh my goodness. You'll find a lot of good spanakopita. You don't need to go to one place, but there's a place around the corner from where I live.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. You don't have to actually say that while we're on air. All right. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you, and it's a mess, but good luck, I guess.
It is a mess, David, but at the same time, it's a mess that we all find ourselves in. The only reason why Greece matters is because it's indicative of what is wrong with our world at large. Greece should not matter to people in America and so on. Matters to people in Greece. But it is interesting that the denial of the establishment to deal with what it is in the end, a simple to solve problem of financial engineering and some fiscal policy, their denial to do it is a political failure, which I think reflects the reasons why all our countries, in the United States, in Europe, the whole world is in trouble, because we have a scandalous political failure.
Absolutely. Well, it just combines so many things that I'm talking about all the time. And it's been a pleasure talking to you. And for more on Yanis's work, you can go to his website, which has a ton of his articles. It's a great site. It's yanisvaroufakis.eu, and we'll have the link right down below. Yanis, thanks a lot.